Somewhere in the universe, a photon is traveling toward your eye. It left its source perhaps a fraction of a second ago, perhaps 1,000 years ago. It has crossed an unimaginable distance, threading through space at the fastest speed anything in the universe is permitted to travel, and it is about to end its journey inside the back of your skull. When it arrives, it will strike a single cell, a rod or a cone, one of the 120 million such cells lining the inside of your eye. The photon will be absorbed. It will cease to exist as light, and in the fraction of a millisecond that follows, a chemical reaction will begin. Protein will change shape. An electrical signal will fire. And that signal, that ghost of the photon that no longer exists, will begin the long journey inward. By the time you are conscious of having seen something, the light is already gone. You have never seen light. You have only ever seen what your brain decided to do with it after the fact. Tonight, we are going to follow that last photon all the way in. And by the time we reach the end, what you thought you knew about seeing, about color, about the world outside your window will be something different. Hold your hand in front of your face. Look at it. You feel as though you are looking at your hand directly, as though your eyes are windows and the view is simply there, unmediated, real. This is one of the oldest and most persistent illusions in human experience. It is wrong. Your eye is not a window. It is a camera pointed backward. The lens at the front focuses incoming light onto a surface at the back, the retina, which is not facing the world at all. It is facing inward. It is pointing at the inside of your skull. The retina itself is constructed in a way that seems at first like a mistake. The light-sensing cells, the rods and cones, are positioned at the back of the retina, facing away from the incoming light. The light has to pass through several layers of other cells, blood vessels, and neural tissue before it reaches the cells that actually detect it. This is not elegant design. It is the result of hundreds of millions of years of evolutionary improvisation. One system built on top of another, never redesigned from scratch. The eye works despite its construction, not because of it. And at the very center of your vision, there is a hole. The optic nerve has to connect the retina to the brain somehow. It does this by gathering all the nerve fibers into a single bundle and punching it through the retina. Where the nerve exits, there are no photoreceptors at all. There is a patch of pure blindness in the center of your visual field, roughly the size of 15 full moons placed side by side. You cannot see it. Your brain fills it in every moment with what it expects to be there. And you have never in your entire life noticed the gap. Now follow the photon. It enters the eye through the cornea, which bends it, through the aqueous humor, the clear fluid filling the front of the eye, through the pupil, a hole that widens or narrows depending on the light, controlled by a ring of muscle that responds to signals you are never aware of. Through the lens, which bends the photon again, more precisely this time, adjusting its path so it will land in exactly the right place. The photon is now inside the eye, moving through the vitreous humor, the gel that fills the main body of the eye and gives it its shape. It is traveling at the speed of light, but it is slowing slightly, as light always does when it passes through matter. And it has approximately 20 milliseconds before everything changes. It strikes a cone cell. In daylight, it is likely a cone. Cones detect color, and there are 3 types, each sensitive to different wavelengths. The one our photon strikes contains a protein called a photopigment, a large molecule coiled around a smaller one called retinal. The photon's energy is absorbed by the retinal molecule. And in a picosecond, 1/1,000,000th of a second, the retinal changes shape. It bends. This change in shape triggers a cascade. The photopigment activates an enzyme, The enzyme amplifies the signal. Ion channels close. The electrical charge inside the cone changes. The photon no longer exists as light. It has become electricity. And now it begins the journey inward. Before the signal leaves the eye, something must be corrected. The image formed on your retina is upside down. The lens of the eye, like any convex lens, inverts the image it focuses. The sky is at the bottom of your retina. The floor is at the top. Your hand, held in front of your face, is projected upside down onto the surface that detects it. Your brain has been flipping this image since before you were born. It does it so automatically, so seamlessly, that you have never once been aware it was happening. In the 1890s, a psychologist named George Stratton wore a device that inverted his vision, making the world appear upside down. For several days, the world looked wrong. Then, gradually, his brain adapted. The inverted world began to look normal. When he removed the device, the right way up world initially looked inverted. The brain does not care what is true, cares what is consistent. It will redefine normal to match whatever input it receives, as long as the input is stable. The image you see right now has been corrected, rotated, and adjusted. The colors have been white balanced. The edges have been sharpened. The motion has been smoothed. You are not seeing the world. You are seeing a processed version of it that your brain considers more useful than the raw data. The world outside your eye is inverted. You have never seen it the way it actually falls on your retina, not for a single moment of your life. Here is the part that changes things. Color is not in the world. It is in you. The electromagnetic spectrum is real. Wavelengths of radiation exist in a continuous range from the very long radio waves to the very short gamma rays. The light that enters your eye occupies a tiny slice of this spectrum, a range your eye happens to be sensitive to. But the radiation itself has no color. It has only wavelength. The wavelength of 450 nanometers is not blue. It is a particular frequency of electromagnetic radiation, no more inherently colored than a radio wave. Blue is what your brain does when it receives a signal from your short wavelength cone cells. Color is a translation. It is your brain's way of encoding wavelength information into an experience. And different brains encode it differently. Some people have a fourth type of cone cell. They are called tetrachromats, and they see a version of color that no one else can describe to them because the rest of us lack the equipment. The colors they see have no name in any language. They exist only in those eyes, in that brain, and they have no equivalent in the shared world. Your dog sees a world of blues and yellows. A mantis shrimp has 16 types of photoreceptors and processes color in a way that may be, paradoxically, less rich than human color vision, not more, but stranger in ways we cannot fully model. There is no color in the world. There are only wavelengths and brains. The world outside your window has no more color than a radio signal. The color is the story your brain tells about the wavelengths, and it tells a different story than every other brain around you. The electrical signal from your cone cell has now traveled along the optic nerve at roughly 300 kilometers per hour into the brain. It has arrived at the primary visual cortex at the very back of your skull. And here, perhaps, is the most startling fact about vision. The visual cortex is dark. Not dim, dark, sealed inside bone, bathed in fluid, never exposed to light in your entire lifetime. Your brain has never seen anything. It sits in permanent darkness, receiving electrical signals, and from those signals, it constructs an experience of light. The experience of brightness, of color, of form and depth and motion is produced in a place that has never been touched by a single photon. The light ends at the retina. Everything after that is inference, reconstruction, a model of the world, not the world itself. The visual cortex processes signals from the eye and distributes them across dozens of specialized areas. One region processes motion, another processes color, another processes faces, another processes spatial relationships. None of these areas are looking at anything. They are processing data. And somewhere in the conversation between these regions, a unified experience of seeing emerges. Not in any single place, not in a single moment, but gradually over roughly 100 milliseconds, the brain assembles a picture. By the time you are aware of what you are seeing, the photon that started the process is ancient history. The brain does not wait for complete information before it decides what it is seeing. It guesses, constantly. It uses everything it knows about the world, everything it has ever seen, every pattern it has ever stored, to predict what the incoming signals probably mean. And then it looks to see if the prediction was right. Most of the time it was. The visual system is extraordinarily good at prediction, so good that in normal circumstances you never notice it is predicting rather than simply seeing. But in unusual circumstances, the prediction fails. And then you see something that isn't there. When you stare at a waterfall for several seconds and then look at a still surface, the surface appears to move upward. The motion-detecting neurons adapted to the downward motion and now interpret the absence of motion as upward motion. You are seeing motion in a perfectly stationary object. When you look at this sentence, your brain is not reading every letter individually. It is recognizing word shapes from a pattern library built over years of reading. If every letter in the words you are reading were jumbled but the first and last letters remained in place, you could still read most of this sentence. Your brain skipped the middle. Every face you have ever seen, you have partially invented. The brain's face recognition system is so eager, so primed, that it finds faces in clouds, in wood grain, in the shadows of rocks. It sees the face of a person in a surface that has no face, because seeing faces is more important than missing them. You are not seeing the world. You are seeing the world your brain thinks is most likely to be out there. Return to the blind spot. Every human eye has one. A region of the retina where the optic nerve exits, where there are no photoreceptors at all. A patch of pure nothing in the center of your visual field, large enough to swallow the full moon several times over. You have never seen it. And this is not because it is hard to notice. It is because your brain actively hides it. The brain looks at the signals coming from the regions surrounding the blind spot and asks, what is probably in that gap? And then it fills the gap with whatever it has decided is most likely. Usually, it fills in the background. If you are looking at a wall, the blind spot is filled with wall. If you are looking at a pattern, the pattern continues through the gap. This is not passive. It is active construction. Your brain is inventing part of your visual field every moment and presenting it to you as if it were real perception. The filled-in image feels completely real. It is indistinguishable from the parts of the image your eye actually detected, because your brain does not tag its inventions. It does not mark the constructed parts differently from the perceived parts. The fill looks like the sea. Everything you are looking at right now contains a small patch that you have not actually seen. You invented it. You just do not know which part. Now we return to where we started. The last light you will ever see will follow the same path every photon has ever taken through your eye. It will enter the cornea, bend through the lens, strike a photoreceptor, trigger a cascade, become electricity, travel the optic nerve, arrive in the visual cortex, and there it will be processed, filtered through everything you have ever seen before, compared against a lifetime of stored patterns, interpreted in the context of whatever else is happening at that moment. You will not see the light. You will see the brain's interpretation of it. A story assembled in a dark room by a mind that has never been exposed to light from electrical signals sent by cells that are themselves invisible to you. Some people, in moments of extreme physiological stress, report seeing a bright light, tunnel, a warmth. Neuroscientists believe this is likely the visual cortex activating spontaneously, without external input, as the brain's electrical activity changes. The last image your brain constructs may not be the image the world is sending it at all. It may be something the brain makes entirely from within. The last thing you see may not be out there. It may always have been in here. Everything you have ever seen, you have seen in a dark room. Every sunrise, every face you have loved, every city skyline and ocean horizon and winter sky was assembled in a sealed chamber that has never once been touched by light, by a brain working from signals, not images, from inference, not fact, from a model of the world that is always slightly wrong and almost always good enough. The light stops at the back of your eye. From there, the rest is construction. And the construction is so fast, so seamless, so complete, that you have spent your entire life mistaking it for reality. You have never seen the world. You have seen your brain's best guess about the world. And your brain's best guess has been, for most of your life, a very good one. Good enough to navigate. Good enough to recognize the faces you love. Good enough to watch a sunset and feel that the colors are real, even though the colors are yours, assembled in the dark, offered back to you as the world. The last light you will ever see will be made of the same material as the first. Not photons, not wavelengths, your own imagination shaped by the shape of things. Sleep well.